Welcome to Thomas Talks on Thursday. My name is Thomas Miner. I'm an agent with Remax Precision, and this is a weekly live stream that I do. I'm talking about on this live stream all things real estate related, all things Iowa related. But the idea behind all of this is to have more of a deeper conversation that you guys are involved with. That's why I'm doing it live. You guys can comment live and we can have a real discussion about anything you guys are interested in. Once a week, I post what I'm planning on talking about. Don't be afraid to comment on those if you want to join in on the discussion early. But the idea is I don't want to just talk about things that interest me. I want to talk about things that interest you guys, teach you a little bit about real estate, give you an idea of what it's like to talk to me about real estate. Hopefully, if you watch this every single week, you come out of it a little bit more informed or at least entertained. I also will mention that I have started doing on Fridays, Five on Friday, which is advertising our team's five best listings or five most interesting listings. So you guys can look at more houses and get an idea of what is on the market. So this week, as soon as my dog stops barking, I thought I'm on Reddit a lot. And Reddit is a great source of hearing interesting stories, hearing different viewpoints, and something that pops up about every week, about every day, to be totally honest, is just interesting stories of real estate transactions that have gone wrong. I picked three that were kind of interesting to me. And I think with every single transaction, if everything went perfectly, or if there were small hiccups, or if there was big hiccups, there's always something to learn, always something to talk about. So I think it's a really interesting way to hear me talk about real estate. So I pulled up three of them. I'm going to go through them, read the stories really quick, give my opinions, give you guys some information or at least lessons that could be learned by each story. So let's pull up the first one here. Let's get into a view that I like a little bit better. So this one, my agent is also the buyer's agent. Is this normal? So we were selling our house. Our agent brought us an offer. We just found out that the same agent is also representing the buyers. I thought this was a conflict of interest. Is this something that happens a lot? Do they just get double commission? It feels a little weird to me. It is weird for one specific reason, and it really depends on what state they're in. So, what this poster is talking about is dual agency. Your listing agent brought the buyer, and they are representing both the buyer and the seller. So, is this legal? It depends on the state. In Iowa, dual agency is legal, it just needs to be disclosed. And in this case, it is weird because it wasn't disclosed. I don't know every single state's laws backwards and forwards, but I can't think of any state that would allow dual agency but not allow it, but not have any protections in there for it having to be disclosed. So, does it happen a lot? No, dual agency is fairly rare. I probably have done it in the 6 years that I've been doing real estate. I think I've done dual agency 4 times, maybe. So, it happens, doesn't happen a lot. In Iowa, it has to be disclosed. And that has to be disclosed because it kind of changes the responsibilities of the agent. So the form that the state of Iowa has kind of lays this all out, and any good agent is going to walk you through it before you sign it. But basically, your agent turns into more of a facilitator of the transaction. And the way I always explain this to my buyers or sellers is I'm only going to share with you timeline things, how things are moving along, and I'm only going to share hard facts. And everything I share with you is also going to be shared with the other party. Now, this gets a little bit different because anytime I'm representing a seller or a buyer, in every single situation. There's some things that aren't necessarily facts, but opinions that I think should be shared. Like the biggest example is like negotiating price. If I'm representing both sides with the negotiation of price and I tell all my sellers this, what I'm going to give the buyer and what the seller already has is a price analysis that I provide. Um, and the price analysis has comparable homes that are sold. It has local statistics. It has all that stuff to help the seller determine the price. I give that same thing to the buyer, and the buyer decides what price that they're going to offer. Whereas if I was just representing the buyer, I would share that price analysis and I would also share my opinion on what I think we can get the house at. And this is a big reason too, just all the intricacies of dual agency because it gets really, really weird. And the main goal as an agent doing a dual agency is to not have any party walk away feel like I've favorited their side. So that's why it turns into a much more sharing facts type of thing. Because there's a lot of opinion that can get tied up into negotiation. Because like you'd be surprised how many listing agents give away information that the of the seller situation that makes you know that you're in a really, really good negotiation position. Same thing on the buyer side. You'd be surprised how many buyers agents give away. Like, oh my God, the buyers absolutely loved this house. This is the only house that they've seen that they've liked. And on the seller side, all I'm hearing is, okay, we have the power in this negotiation. If I'm representing both parties, my goal is to not give away any of that information to either side, unless that side specifically has told me that they're okay with that. But in most cases, that side is not okay with that, not okay with giving away negotiation power, everything like that. But I actually just closed a dual agency deal last week, and it went really, really well because the sellers were in a position where they were just getting the home ready to list. I told them I had a buyer. We kind of sort of negotiated price before my buyers even saw it. And thankfully, it was a situation where my buyers that were coming in um, literally had a max dollar that they can offer, and that max dollar was really, really close to what we were planning on listing the home at, but it wasn't quite the list price. So I just straight up told the sellers, I know the buyers, and the buyers were okay with me doing this. I said, I know the buyer's situation. This is literally the max that they can. Um, if they like this house, they're going to offer this. And the seller said, cool, bring them on by. If they like the house, we'll offer that. Um, and we'll be good to go. The buyers ended up getting a little bit more credits than I thought they would, but we basically offered that price that we talked about. Both parties signed, and we closed up, and it was perfect. The biggest scary thing about this is that these sellers signed a dual agency agreement with, they signed a dual agency offer without knowing it was a dual agency offer. And that automatically, if I was the seller, would put me in a position where I feel like that agent has more of a connection with the buyer and is favoring the buyer because for some reason that agent thought if they knew I was representing both sides, that would um, put these buyers in a worse position. So they were trying to put the buyers in a better position than they should have been. Both parties should have been informed of what was going on. And then this doesn't even answer whether the buyers knew that this was this agent's listing too, which could have changed the buyer's opinion on um, whether they wanted to offer on the house, or they could have known that they were in a better position than they really were because they had the inside scoop on the listing. But it should be disclosed. The compensation question, that is all should hopefully be pre-negotiated. I will talk to most of my listings before we list it about what it'll look like if I bring the buyer, if they're okay with me bringing the buyer, because some sellers, some buyers don't want to deal with dual agency. There's also ways to get around it and make everyone feel more comfortable too. I've had situations in the past where I had listed my uncle's home. I got a buyer lead and I didn't feel comfortable representing that buyer because there's no way for me to be unbiased. Like I'm obviously gonna favor my uncle's side, so I referred that out to a different agent to represent the buyer. But that's some ways to not have dual agency if it makes everyone more comfortable. The biggest thing is making sure everyone is more comfortable in the situation. So let's go to the next story. Where are houses marketed? We're selling our house. It's been on market for almost 2 months now. We've had zero interest. I've spoken with my realtor maybe 3 times total. So the house has been listed for 2 months, and they've only spoken to their listing agent 3 times. I don't feel like she's marketing the house other than listing it on the MLS, which feeds to Zillow and the like. So it feeds to Zillow, it feeds to Realtor, anything that's connected to the MLS, it feeds to it. We lowered the price by 10K, and we are currently offering a $5,000 concession. It's priced comparably to other houses in my area, so we aren't overpriced. Any thoughts or suggestions on what else we could do other than dropping the price by some crazy amount? So, there's quite a few lessons to be learned here. One, this whole first paragraph essentially is sending up red flags to me about things that should have been talked about before the home was listed. I really think if you're interviewing any other listing agent, every single agent, I shouldn't say every single agent, every agent that is um, with any local association is probably going to list the house and is probably going to put it on the MLS. That's almost 100% guaranteed. Hopefully, they are also doing a price analysis for you. That's a detailed price analysis that makes you as comfortable as possible with the list price that you have chosen. Um, that's something that should be done before listing. Hopefully, they're taking professional photos. I was about to say every single one of them is going to take professional photos, but that's not always guaranteed. And I also would point out that even professional photos, there's photographers that are better than others. Just any listing agent you're thinking about interviewing, go look at their past listings and look and see what the photos look like. Good idea. Um, and the other big red flag is the only 3 times in the last 2 months. Now, if you have no showings, there's not much to communicate about on that front. Um, but for every listing I have, I'm communicating with my sellers at least once a week. I send a weekly recap email that kind of gives them an idea of what's going on in their market, kind of gives them an idea of what kind of traffic their home is getting, and it gives them an idea of what I'm thinking about next as far as my marketing, as far as things that I think that they can do to make the home show better, as far as feedback that we've gotten on the home. Those are all kind of things I'm communicating with them about. And this should all be talked about before listing. What's your communication style? How often do you communicate? Other than putting it on the MLS, what are you planning on doing on marketing it? Do we feel good about the price? Do we feel good about how it's going to be presented online? These are all things that you should be talking to your listing agent about. The price reduction thing, unfortunately, we don't know what market this home is in, and we don't know what price it was originally listed at. Because if this is an $800,000 home and you dropped it $10,000 and you're offering a $5,000 credit, percentage wise, that really isn't that much. If it's a $150,000 home, you dropped it $10,000 and you're offering a $5,000 concession. That's a big deal. That can move the needle. I'm guessing since they haven't gotten any traffic after doing that price reduction, it wasn't a price reduction that moves the needle. So here's the deal. The number one goal when you're listing a home is to pick the price that is going to get you the offer. It's just going to get you in the door. Your listing price is an invitation to negotiate. So you have to find that price that is immediately going to get people interested, get people in the door, and get people to offer. And that's the dance that we're playing. We're picking the highest price that gets that kind of action. But if you miss the mark, that next price reduction you do is the most important one because you need to pick a price reduction that is going to move the needle and get that offer. And you can't, unless you're, one second, you can't, um, what's the term I'm looking for here? You can't play the middle ground. You can't do a somewhat aggressive price adjustment. You can do micro adjustments with the plan of doing a lot of them where you eventually find the price. The problem with that is you're gonna get accumulate a lot of days on market, and then that can put you in a bad negotiation position, or you do the big one. Don't dance around in the middle is generally my thoughts. Um, but yeah, that's the horror story here. Is essentially there's a lot of questions that should have been asked of the real estate agent before you listed the house. um, mm, my inkling is that they just were never priced in the right position. But if you truly don't know what your listing agent is doing to market the home, it's hard to decide, let's just do another price reduction when you don't know if your listing agent is making an honest attempt to sell it at the price that it's at right now. Now, if you have a listing agent that's doing absolutely everything in their bag of tricks to market the home, then you know, hey, we've shown it to as many people as possible. The only other answer right now is price because it really just comes down to price. It comes down to condition of the home. It comes down to presentation of the home, and it comes down to your location. That's kind of sort of it. And your only marketing tools you have are that price and how it's presented. So if your agent is making sure it's presented well online, they have uh, communicated with you how they think it'll be presented best as far as showing. If you have both of those locked down and you're still not getting any traffic, the only other answer there is price or just time, honestly. If you stay patient enough, you will eventually get that offer. But no one lists their home with the goal to say, we're just going to keep it on market for as long as we need to get this price. A majority of people don't, at least. You need to have your goals in mind. You need to know, hey, I want to sell it within X amount of days and I want to make as much money as possible. Those are kind of your goals. And then every home is unique. There's a lot of different things that might pop up in between that, but you should have a decent idea of that. Let's go into the last one here. Buyers leaving us up a creek. My wife and I are in the process of selling our first home to purchase a new, bigger house for our family. The money from our sale of our current house to close is going to purchase the new house. The buyer put $10,000 down as earnest money. Our realtor has been checking in with them regularly, confirming all of this is set with the buyer to close. And the buyer even asked if we could close early. We thought, okay, proposed a new date, but didn't hear anything back and just thought the buyer was busy since he is a flight attendant. Still, the buyer's lender said last week things were looking good and we just needed one last paper from the buyer to be set to close. Then, yesterday, the day before closing on the sale of our first home, our realtor reaches out and says he's not been able to get in touch with the buyer's agent or the buyer's lender for the last 48 hours, and the title company has not been able to get what they need to finish the closing packet. The title company finds out the lender is now unable to approve the loan because the buyer was trying to do a bridge loan and pull the equity from his condo to pay for our house. However, the condo HOA has an open lawsuit against them. So here I am with my family, already moved out of the house, started our journey from Florida to North Carolina, which has not been easy with a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old to be in person to close our new house. Seemingly, the purchase of our old house is about to fall through, and sadness ensues. This is a long story. This really, really sucks. Unfortunately, things in real estate do just happen. And it's not always your listing agent's fault. It's not always the buyer's agent's fault. It's not always the lender's fault. It's not always title's fault. Um, It's not always the buyer's fault. It's not always the seller's fault. Um, but I will say throughout the print process of a transaction, there's milestones that every seller's agent, every listing agent knows that we need to hit. And having agents around that are very, very cautious of these milestones and making sure that we hit them and not leaving anything up to last minute helps a ton. Um, Knowing the timelines of when things are supposed to be done, when things normally get done, helps a ton. Um, and having a listing agent communicate to you, for example, a week out, a lender saying, all I need is one document. It's like, okay, what document is it? When are you expected to get it? This should have immediately had the listing agent telling the seller, this, it can close on time, but it's weird, you know? Um, should have thrown up some red flags that this is possibly not going to work out on timeline or not work out at all. Or it should at least have the listing agent asking questions about what's going on with this, you know? So this is more so just a lesson of making sure your listing agent or your buyer's agent is on top of timelines, to be totally honest. And being honest with you as the buyer or the seller, like, hey, this is kind of weird. Uh, don't worry yet, but I just want to put this bug in your ear to start thinking about this might miss some deadlines, might not close on time. Um, and then that could have put you in a position because you needed to close, could have put you in a position to start talking to the party that you're about to close on. Hey, what does it look like if we don't close on time for the place I'm selling? Do we have any avenues to delay closing? What are our options there? And then really started to be more preemptive instead of reactionary is the biggest lesson with this. So I think those are three good lessons to learn. I think those are, hopefully you guys got something out of that. I appreciate everyone for watching. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I will see you tomorrow with 5 listings from the Spirit Real Estate team that I think you guys will find really, really interesting. There's lots of great inventory on the market. So if you have any questions or want to go tour anything, don't be afraid to reach out. I feel like now is a great time as we get towards the end of August. School has gone back into session. The state fair is done. There's lots of inventory available. There's lots of people that are really, really looking to get some accepted offers. So if you're one of those people that wants to start looking, I don't think now's a bad time. If you close, if you get an accepted offer within a few weeks here, you're going to be closing end of September, beginning of October, before holidays really get started. So I think it's a great time. So don't be afraid to reach out if you want to get the ball rolling on that. If you're watching this live stream later, don't be afraid to comment with anything you want me to talk about on another episode. I'm going to be doing these every Thursday. So thank you guys so much and have a great day.